When Taylor Swift released her Netflix documentary Miss Americana in early 2020, fans were given a rare behind-the-scenes glimpse into her life, career, and personal struggles. While the documentary was filled with intimate moments and personal reflections, one thing that stood out to many viewers was the noticeable absence of her then-boyfriend, Joe Alwyn. Throughout the film, Joe was barely mentioned, and when he did appear, it was only briefly. So, why was he barely featured in a documentary that was so personal? Let's dive into the possible reasons behind this. First and foremost, it's important to acknowledge the nature of Taylor and Joe's relationship. Throughout their time together, the couple has been very private. Unlike Taylor's previous relationships that have been heavily documented and splashed across tabloids, she and Joe have made it a point to keep their romance low-key. From the start, they've rarely appeared together in public, and Joe has rarely commented on their relationship in interviews or social media. It seems that both Taylor and Joe have always preferred to keep their personal lives out of the limelight as much as possible. This privacy may explain why Joe's presence in Miss Americana is so minimal. Taylor has always been very deliberate about how much she reveals to the public, and while she's used her music to express her emotions and relationships, her private life, especially with Joe, has remained largely untouched. The documentary, while revealing in many ways, is still curated by Taylor herself, and it's possible she chose not to include too much about Joe in order to maintain that level of privacy. It could have been her decision to shield him from the public eye even more, respecting their mutual desire for a relationship away from the media frenzy. Another reason could be that the documentary was more about Taylor's personal growth and the journey she was going through during a very specific time in her life. Miss Americana primarily focuses on Taylor's shift in both her music and her public persona, moving from country pop darling to a more politically outspoken and self-assured artist. The film explores her feelings of vulnerability, dealing with body image issues, and the pressure of being in the public eye. Given the focus on Taylor's personal transformation and self-discovery, it makes sense that the documentary doesn't delve much into her romantic life. It's a reflection of her growth as an individual, rather than a couple's journey. Additionally, at the time of filming Miss Americana, Taylor was at a pivotal moment in her career. She had just released Lover in 2019, which featured some very personal and intimate tracks, many of which fans speculated were about Joe. However, even though her relationship with Joe was a significant part of her life at the time, it's possible that Taylor didn't want to focus too much on it in the documentary. The film's narrative is largely about Taylor navigating the challenges of fame, politics, and self-empowerment. By not putting Joe front and center, Taylor may have wanted to keep the focus on herself and her artistry rather than on her relationship. Of course, there are also practical reasons behind the minimal footage of Joe. Taylor and Joe may have simply made the decision not to include him, respecting his own boundaries and desire for privacy. Joe is a well-established actor in his own right, and it's clear that he values his privacy as much as Taylor does. It's possible that, while Taylor was happy to share her own story, she didn't want to impose on Joe's wishes or bring him into the public eye in a way he wasn't comfortable with. Lastly, there's the possibility that Taylor wanted to leave certain aspects of her relationship with Joe out of the public narrative entirely. While their relationship has been widely speculated about, Taylor has rarely confirmed anything about it publicly. By not featuring Joe in the documentary, she may have been making a conscious decision to let their relationship remain as private as possible, keeping it separate from her public persona and the narrative of Miss Americana. In the end, while it's clear that Joe Alwyn played a significant role in Taylor Swift's life during the time Miss Americana was filmed, his absence from the documentary speaks volumes about Taylor's approach to privacy, her personal growth, and the boundaries she sets in sharing her story. Whether Joe's lack of screen time was a decision made by Taylor herself or a mutual choice between the two, it ultimately allowed the documentary to focus on Taylor's evolution as an artist and a person, keeping her most intimate relationship out of the spotlight, just as she's always done.